You know, audio is incredibly subjective. When I get a new pair of earphones, sometimes I wonder to myself, are they a little bit too warm or are they a little bit too bright? And I would like to find ways to tweak them a little bit so they can sound exactly to my taste. Today, we're going to find out how. These are the top 5 ear tips you can use to tweak the sound to your taste. Welcome back to Super Chunk Show. Let's go! Eartips are the most affordable way to tweak the sound of your earphones and improve your comfort level when using them. So these are the top 5. The first will be the Asla Setna Fit EarFit Lite. Coming all the way from Korea, we have the Asla Setna EarFit Lite. These ear clips are quite special to me. I actually own quite a few pairs of them and they are on my earphones. What makes them so special is that their opening is actually quite big and this allows for more treble energy to pass through. Also, the stem of the EarFit Lite is also rather thick and long, which allows for bass energies to be carried forward a bit better. Personally, I think that these ear tips are great if you like the V-shaped signature. It does exaggerate music quite a bit and make it a lot more dynamic and exciting. And this is really the defining characteristics of this set of ear tips. I really do like them. And I'll move on to the positives and negatives of these ear tips. Now, starting with the positives. These ear tips are premium ear tips. They really do feel like it's built of excellent quality silicone. There is just this sense of quality that comes with them that is very different from other tips. I really enjoy how it makes bass a bit more articulate, a bit more detailed, and also how the highs are airier per se. They do sound really good and really lends a more exciting dynamic nature to your earphones. To the negatives. So one thing about these earphones is that because they are premium, they are a bit more expensive than normal. Also, if you're used to a certain size of ear tips, let's say like for me, I'm using mediums most of the time. With the Setna EarFit Lites, I actually have to use medium smalls. They run a bit big, so when you're purchasing these ear tips, please take note, they are usually about a size up from what you are used to. So it's something to bear in mind. Usage. I find that these ear tips add a lot of dynamism into the music, and as such, I would actually use them on neutral natural earphones to give them a bit more life. The added bass and highs make them a bit more enjoyable to listen to, and that's how I pair the Asla Setna EarFit Lite. Honestly, the name is really long, it's really hard to pronounce. You got no idea how many takes did I have to do that to pronounce that right. But anyways, moving on. Now, second on the list would be the Asla Setna X Elastic. These ear tips are very sticky. So if you have a pet cat, please do not put your ear tips near your cat or anywhere with fur, or else you have a terrible time trying to remove the fur from the ear tips. Yeah. Putting the X Elastics in my ear, honestly I can tell they latch on really well. It is really sticky. It is made from some thermoplastic elastomers. What does that mean to me? Absolutely nothing. I'm not a materials engineer, so I don't know this stuff, but they do fit very well. So what happens with them is that when there is some heat, they conform to the shape of your ear. I really do like this. They, kind of disappear in my ear, although they still feel kind of sticky. Ideal use case scenario, I would use them with my TWS earphones when I go for my run. Yes, I do use them sometimes, only when I'm exercising. They really allow me to feel more confident while using my TWS earphones. About the construction of the X Elastics, they actually have a medium-sized opening. The opening is smaller than that of the EarFit Lite, and also the material used for the X Elastics are not very hard, to be honest. They're actually quite medium in hardness. They're not the hardest feeling ear tips, nor are they the softest feeling ear tips. In terms of sound, I find them to be rather neutral. They don't add much treble or bass to the music, and they are just reproducing what the earphone was originally doing. I think the main point of the X Elastics is that they fit extremely well. If you have trouble fitting your earphones in your ear, you might consider using them, as they really allow them to stick right in your ears. Benefits of using the X Elastic. Isolation on the X Elastic is excellent. You can really block out a lot of outside noise and really have a very personal listening time. Second benefit would be that these ear tips are extremely sticky. Once I have them on my earphones, I never once found myself fiddling with my earphones. They are in deep. Yeah, they really fit great. It works for earphones that you have tricky fit with. Also, if you sometimes dabble with TWS, the X-Elastic works great on TWS earphones. I actually use some TWS earphones when I go for my weekly run, and I feel that they give me a lot of confidence when I'm doing my run so that the earphones don't drop from my ears. Never did I actually have that happen with normal silicone ear tips, but I feel a lot more confident with the X-Elastics. Moving on to the negatives of the X-Elastic, I actually have two pairs of X-Elastics. The first lasts me about 6 months before they deformed. Well, it's not right for any ear tips to deform, but based on its heat-sensitive properties where it conforms to your ears, I think after 6 months they don't really hold up as well. But then again, during the 6 months, the fit was perfect. I eventually found them to not stick onto the nozzle of my ear tips, and thus I eventually lost them and had to replace them with a new pair. Secondly, I think that these ear tips are a bit expensive, so I think pretty much those are the negatives of the X-Elastics. In terms of usage, I would recommend that these ear tips go on earphones that you have trouble fitting them on. I use them first on my TWS. They make me feel a lot more confident it was not going to drop from my ears, and I think that is great. Secondly, if you're using traditional IEMs, I think the X-Elastic fits better. But overall for me, I think for what I want, the Setna Ear Fit Lite actually does a better job than the X-Elastics for universal IEMs. They last longer, they are expensive, but generally they do not deform as much, and I think that is a better value proposition. Third recommended ear tip will be the Sony EP-TC50 ear tips. Honestly, the naming on Sony ear tips is also very convoluted. I can barely remember what ear tips are they, but in any case, let me just describe them to you. These are the ear tips that you get with Sony earphones. They are actually silicone, just like your normal ear tips, except that on the dome, it has a layer of foam on it. When you see them, you'll definitely know how they look like. They are rather unique. It's kind of a mishmash of both foam ear tips and silicone ear tips, but not done in the way that people normally expect. Normally people would think that there is a silicone dome with foam underneath it. This is the other way around. They have foam on top of the silicone dome. So they do give you the characteristics of both foam and silicone, but not in the way that normal people would expect it. These ear tips do not give you the pressurized feeling when wearing silicone ear tips. In fact, they don't really give you that pressurized feeling, and it's actually a little bit more comfortable than the usual silicone ear tips. The opening of these ear tips are medium small. Decay on the treble seems to be a bit faster, and I think there is a slight treble reduction on these ear tips as well. The stem of these ear tips are not particularly long, but they do add a bit of bass emphasis as well. All in all, I find these ear tips to slightly mute up the treble while still giving you a very good bass response. What is impressive to me is that you don't get the pressurized feeling, and I really do enjoy that. I can wear these ear tips on hours on end. Benefits of these Sony foamy hybrid tip: they are actually very comfortable to wear. As I mentioned, I put them on my earphones and I can sit there with them in my ears for hours. I find them tonally to be rather neutral, with only the treble being slightly muted, and it's really perfect for those earphones that are a little bit bright sounding. You just want to tame them down a little bit. I think that these will reduce treble energy just a smidgen, and to make the overall tonal character of the earphones feel very much like how it was intended by the manufacturer. Some negatives about these ear tips is that you need to get used to the lack of pressurized sensation in your ears. At first it's a bit concerning, but after a while I grew to actually really like it. I find them really comfortable. Another negative would be that these ear tips are extremely hard to find. I will try to find some and link them below if you want to buy. I'm not affiliated with Amazon or whatever not. But yeah. Usage. I would use these ear tips if you want an absolutely comfortable listen while retaining the tonal integrity of the earphone. The lack of pressure really makes the Sony ear tips to be extra comfortable. They also augment the treble just a smidget, which allows me to listen to my earphones for a longer duration. All in all, if you're looking for an extremely comfortable ear tip, this is the one to get. 4. Comply ear tips. Personally, I'm not a big fan of comply ear tips, but I do get that there are some people out there who are extremely treble sensitive, and that is the only situation where I will recommend the comply ear tips. Personally, I find that the comply ear tips mutes out too much of the higher frequencies and makes music sound a bit dull. But in any case, let me just get on with it. Comply ear tips comes in 1001 sizes, so there's not one particular model that I'm recommending. Just select the one that suits your earphone best. So you probably know by now, comply ear tips are very soft. They are marshmallow-like in nature. You have to compress them into a small little ball and then shove it in your ear and let it expand. And yeah, basically because of that, because of its softness, it actually soaks up a lot of treble performance. Some positives of using complies, they are really comfortable. I must say, even today, I find them really comfortable. And also, some positive would be that it really soaks up a lot of treble. It's great if you are very treble sensitive, but if you are not, then treat it as a con. Some negatives about the complies is that personally, they last about 2 weeks for me before they become very hard to conform to the shape of my ears. They don't hold shape very well. They are also rather expensive. Tone of your earphones changed a bit too much for my taste. You get zero air with these ear tips. Yeah, that's basically about it. But they are comfortable though. Honestly, although I recommend these ear tips, I will only use them in earphones that I find to be super bright, or if you are super treble sensitive, then I would recommend them. To me, they augment the tone a bit too much and would be only considered if I prioritize comfort over everything else. It's great for someone who is very treble sensitive. They'll reduce treble a lot. And the 5th ear tip on my list would be the Final Type E ear tips. The Final Type E ear tips are made of silicone and they are very popular since its inception a few years back. Comparing to other ear tips, the opening of the Final Type E ear tip, it is rather small, and also the stem is medium in length and hardness. Because of this, treble energy is slightly reduced, but on the whole, these ear tips are rather natural sounding. If you buy these ear tips on its own, they come in a very nice case and you can actually store your ear tips there. This is what I actually use the Final Type E ear tip case for. I store many ear tips inside them and I find them very handy because I'm quite a careless person. I keep losing my ear tips, right? They provided me with such a box and I find it extremely helpful. Also, inside of this box, there are 2 adapters should you want to use your Final Type E ear tips with older school earphones such as the Shure 846, where they have a very narrow board. They actually come with an adapter for that as well, which is extremely handy if you have such earphones. I find the Final Type E to be very comfortable and they are rather neutral sounding ear tips. They do not get more treble like the Setna ear tips, but on the whole, they're quite natural sounding and I would actually use them on most earphones that I own. They are the plain Jane of the ear tip world, but that is not to say that it is bad in any manner. Because it is so stable, I think they just generally suit on most earphones that can have them on, and that by itself is very consistent. Negatives of the Final Type E, to be honest with you, they are quite a bit cheaper compared to the Setnas. I don't think there's much negatives to them. If you're the type of person who wants ultra bright frequencies, then perhaps these ear tips are not for you. Go for the Setnas instead. But if you just want a balanced response, I think the Final Type E's are great. Usage-wise, I think the Final Type E's are very good quality earphones made from very good quality silicone, and honestly they suit a large amount of earphones. Treble is just a little bit muted, less than the Sony ear tips that I mentioned before. On the whole, they are still very neutral, naturally sounding, and will work very well with a lot of earphones out there in the market. And in conclusion, I hope this video helps you select the ear tips that you can use with your earphones. To be honest with you, they are all about preference. If you really want a more dynamic sound, go with the Setna EarFit Lights. I think they are great. If you have problems fitting your earphones onto your ears, choose the X elastics, as they would really ensure that they stay in your ears. But if you're looking for a rather unique experience, the Sonys are the one to go for. The finals are also great if you're looking for a very consistent type of sound where you just want to hear the earphone for what it is. I think the finals are the one to get for that. At the end of the day, whichever ear tips you choose is also very personal, and select the one that suits your ears best. Thank you very much for watching the Super Chong Super Audio Show. I would like to see you again very, very soon as I create something very exciting coming up. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you guys soon.